What is happening, my YouTube family? It is your boy B New coming at you this morning. Bright and sunshiny morning this morning. So I just want to send much love and positive vibrations to everybody out there in YouTube land, anybody who may be watching the video. But anyway, we're gonna jump right into it. Of course, there was a lot of games around the association, but you know I always like to zero in on the main one that everybody was watching. And of course, TNT had a great doubleheader on last night for a nationally televised audience for everybody to see. And that game, that first game, was of course the highly anticipated matchup between the Los Angeles Clippers and the Brooklyn Nets. So let's just hop right into it. I just want to give you my thoughts on the game. Initially, I really thought that the Clippers probably was going to win the game because I think defense wins championships. And I know the Clippers play defense while the Nets do not. But the Nets really did prove something to me last night. And it's not like they proved a whole lot because we all know what a juggernaut they can be offensively. But what the Nets did show me last night is they're going to be very, very dangerous come playoff time, because anytime you have three superstars who are capable of lighting it up the way Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving are all capable of doing, then you better watch out. What I did notice in that game, though, every team has to have that dominant player or that leader or that person who everybody gonna follow and take control. And from all the games that I've watched with them, it hasn't been that many when all three of them been playing together, because there's been some without Harden, there's been some without Kyrie, there's been KD and Kyrie, then there's been KD and Harden, and vice versa. But what I've noticed in the games where there is all three of them, I noticed that Kyrie tends to be the leader of the team. And last night in the fourth quarter, when it came down to crunch time with like 5 or 6 minutes left in the game, we all saw who the alpha male was on that team and who took control of the game and who didn't. And I know Harden hit a shot and KD hit a shot, but that was shots when they were already up. I'm talking about crunch time when the Nets were down by one and when the game was tied. Kyrie was the one who took control and was able to get to the basket, pretty much get whatever he wants, because his handles are that outstanding and his shot is just as smooth. So to me, the way I look at it is, and you can feel free to disagree, who, hate it or love it, it doesn't matter. But I would say that Kyrie, I won't say is the best player on the team. I would still say Kevin Durant is the best player on the team. But I will say Kyrie, he got ice water in his veins more than the rest of them. Because if you think about it, I'm just gonna give you this. James Harden has never won anything. He's never led his team to anything. And you got to think, when he was coming off the bench at OKC, he was a hell of a player, but yet he wasn't leading his team to anything. Durant and Westbrook were clearly the leaders on the team. Then when he went to Houston, yes, he did put up MVP-like numbers and then win a couple of MVPs, but then he was coupled with Chris Paul. They came close, got to the Western Conference Finals. He got Westbrook. We know how that ended. Point being is, James Harden has never, ever led his team to anything on his own and won a championship or won anything. And I just feel like when it comes down to clutch time, when it comes down to those moments when you got to step up big, then you can probably want to depend more so on Kyrie Irving than James Harden, because James Harden hasn't been there and he hasn't been doing it. I'm not saying that he's not capable of doing it. I'm just saying that he hasn't done it before. And James Harden hit a 3 last night, but that was after Kyrie had already put them up by 4. So once you up by 4, if you miss a shot, it's not like, oh my God, you're still up. So it's not like it was a clutch shot. It's not like you behind. It's not like it was under a minute left. So he hit the shot because he's a great shooter. But at the end of the day, it wasn't, to me, just a clutch shot. Kyrie was the one who was performing in the clutch. And if you look at shot selection, Kyrie had like 24 shots. Durant maybe had like 14 shots. And Durant was like 12 out of 14. The man shot like 80% from the field last night. So then next up, if you look, who else will be the alpha male on the team who's been there and done that and just really took advantage of clutch moments and opportunities, I would say next in line would be Kevin Durant. Now, Kevin Durant, everybody want to say, Kevin Durant. I'm not a Kevin Durant hater or anything like that. I just try to speak the truth as much as I can. And people always want to compare Kevin Durant move to LeBron James move. It's not the same move, y'all. It's not the same move. LeBron was surrounded by trash talent in Cleveland for years, where they couldn't even get him nothing but a broke down Shaq and an Antoine Jameson. They could never get Shaq. They could never get LeBron anything. So he decided to use his free agency and go down to a Miami team who was barely even sniffing the playoffs. And yes, Bosh came and everything, but they already had teams, a super team in the East called the Boston Celtics with Rasheed Wallace, with Kevin Garnett, with Paul Pierce, with Rajon Rondo, with Ray Allen. You understand? And a hell of a bench. So anyway, that the equivalent of Kevin Durant going to Golden State would have been like LeBron saying, okay, Boston put Cleveland out, and then LeBron went and joined Miami so he could get some help. You know, he didn't go to Boston. That would have been like LeBron going to Boston and joining KG and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen. Then, of course, they would have won all the ships in a row because they wouldn't have had anybody to go against. And he would have been joining an already championship team. That's not what he did. He still had to go down there, create chemistry, and figure out who was going to be the leader of that team in Miami, which was ultimately him. And I wish Dwayne Wade, even he spoke about it last night when Shaq asked him a couple questions. That first year, they just didn't know who to succeed to who. So anyway, back to my original point. Kevin Durant, now you hit big shots. I'm not taking nothing away from Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, you hit a big time shot in LeBron James' face to seal the championship. Indeed, you did. But like I said, it's not really a clutch shot because your team already up 2-0 or 3-0. And you could easily, if you miss that shot, it's another game to go to. So it's not like that was just clutch. It was a hell of a shot. Granted, LeBron could have closed out. You know, I'm not taking anything away from you. But you went and joined a 72-9 team who had the best record of all time and had already previously won championships. And not only that, that's the very same team that beat you. So like I said, that would be like LeBron joining Boston. And it's just not the same thing. So really, to be honest, Kevin Durant, to me, like I said, I'm not a hater. He should have 3 rings because I'm going to go ahead and be honest. There's no way in hell Toronto would have beat Golden State if Kevin Durant was healthy. There's no way in hell Toronto would have beat Golden State if Klay Thompson was healthy. Just one of the two. If both of them was healthy, they really wouldn't have won. So people stop acting like Kawhi Leonard is like the next coming of Jordan or something like that. Even though his game really reminds me of Jordan more than any player out there right now because of the way he plays defense and the way he got that little fadeaway and the way he get in the paint and create separation for himself to hit that little shot. So anyway, back to my main point. I would say Kevin Durant would be next up in that. And finally, we come to Kyrie. Kyrie, I think, would be the most clutch shot because, as we all know, what he did with LeBron James to hit that big-time 3 that helped seal the championship win against Cleveland versus Golden State in that Game 7. So I think Kyrie really got ice water in his veins, and he's not afraid to go out and show it. And he talked a lot of stuff after the game, and he feel real good about his team, and he should, because I'm going to tell y'all right now, I'm picking Brooklyn to win the East easily. To win the East easily. Even though they don't have defense, I still think they got enough to come out of the East because, I mean, Joel Embiid and Philly could get them problems. I can see that. But no other team really has the offensive firepower. When you're talking about you got 3 of the best, I mean, 3 of the best all-time players of all time really in your starting lineup. I mean, you can't really go through history and say there was too many teams that you could say had that. Because really, I would dare say right now, that Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden are right now top 10 players in the NBA. And I want anybody who disagrees to tell me 7 players that's better than the 3 I just named that starts for the Brooklyn Nets. But at the end of the day, to win championships, you're going to have to get stops. And the thing about it, you could say Brooklyn got stops, but I would just say that the Clippers just really came up empty. The Clippers, they just didn't have the heart to finish the game, and that showed against Denver last year. So I'm not really concerned about that, and everybody think it's going to be the Clippers against the Nets, but that's precisely why the Clippers won't get past the Lakers. You got to have that heart, you got to have that mental fortitude to be able to do that. And then like some of the, and plus the coaching, like Tyronn, whatever the hell your name is, Lou, you need to put an SE on the end of it, and that's probably not even how you spell it, but call him Tyronn Lose. Because he know how to lose a game. He got strictly out-coached last night. The challenge on that three-point play when James Harden got barely brushed his shoulder for the three-pointer, that was ludicrous. That was ridiculous. First of all, that foul. James Harden gets so many fouls. You can't even breathe on James Harden. That little brush foul, I mean, you can call it if you want to. It's not like he got in his space, didn't give him room to land on the shot. All right, like he really just slapped his arm real hard, like he barely maybe grazed him. You have to watch it 30 times just to see. But at the end of the day, why challenge something like that? It's not a good chance that it's going to be overturned. And then there was a timeout that you needed towards the end of the game. You needed that timeout towards the end of the game. Why didn't you call the time? Why didn't you save it? Then you would have had it when you needed to advance the ball, when you was only down by 3 with 2-point-some seconds left. But of course, now you got to throw the ball all the way down. Look, whenever it's a close game and it's the fourth quarter, why in the world would you use a challenge? I mean, I want to know the percentages of calls in the NBA that get overturned. I would dare say it's probably like maybe 20%. So you damn near wasting your time when you challenge in the NBA, because these referees don't feel that they are wrong at no time. And it's so questionable. So unless it's like a goal 10 or something that's out of bounds, like I wouldn't really be challenging foul calls unless it's just very, very obvious. And then at the end of the game, I don't know who I should put this on. If I should put this on Kawhi Leonard, I'm really going to put it on the coaching staff. So, as we all know, the NBA is 5-on-5. If it's 5-on-5 and one of the men are taking the ball out, then that make it 5-on-4. So it's 5 Clippers on the court and only 4 Nets on the court because somebody is taking it out. How in the world do you if it's 5 of y'all compared to 4 of them, that means you could be 2-on-1 on one of them to deny the ball, to deny entry, but somehow you let Jeff Green be all the way open, all the way down the court by himself, and you throw the touchdown pass, and then you don't even foul him hard enough for him to not be able to convert the and one. So he did that and converted the and one, but he did end up missing the free throw, but it didn't matter. He could have hit the free throw and sealed the game. He missed the free throw, so they still had an opportunity. But had they had the timeout, then they would have been able to advance the ball and maybe drew up a play and maybe perhaps force overtime with a Paul George or a Kawhi 3 or even Batum 3. Batum was kind of hot out there from 3 last night. But you got to look at it like this. If you coming down to the last few minutes of the game and you see Batum and you see Kawhi and you see Paul George, and then you look over on the other side and you see Durant, Harden, and Kyrie, just be honest. Who you think gonna win that game? Just go ahead. Go ahead and be honest. You know who's gonna win that game because of the firepower. And one last thing before I'm done for this morning is another thing that's gonna make Brooklyn a hell of a dangerous team is because down the end of the stretch of the game, they had to go ahead and foul to try to get close and hope they had missed one. Well, when you got Kyrie, KD, and Harden all capable of shooting, 90% from free throw, or Kevin Durant 88%, or low 90s, high 80s, then that's gonna be tough because you typically want to get the ball out of the hands of the best free throw shooter. But when you got that many people right there in your starting lineup and that's on the floor at the end of the game who capable of hitting free throws, it's like picking your poison. So you just got to pick your poison. So I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that Brooklyn Nets are not a formidable team. But at the end of the day, I just don't think that they still have what it takes to beat the Lakers the way they are currently constructed in a 7-game series. Unless the Lakers just absolutely folded and the bench doesn't give you anything. But I just cannot see that happening. I think the Lakers are be ready to defend their throne. I think the Lakers might need to make one or two more moves themselves before the trade deadline, but that's something we can discuss later. But shouts out to the Brooklyn Nets, and then the Boston Celtics was the second game that came on. We all know a lot of people that could stay up late enough that's on the East Coast to watch that, but the Celtics did prevail down the stretch, and Jaylen Brown balling out of control, and so was Tatum. So who just knows? Maybe they can challenge in the East too. So it's still a lot of growing and a lot of gelling to do. One play that I thought was funny, I don't know if anybody saw this, but at the end of the third quarter, I don't know if Brad Stevens was drunk, if he had been smoking some of that Celtics flower, or whatever. But it was the end of the third quarter with like 2 seconds and the ball went out of bounds or whatever. And instead of just letting the time run out, this man called a timeout. It was like a tied game or whatever, and he called a timeout. And you cannot advance the ball on a timeout in the third quarter, so he couldn't advance it. So I'm like, why the hell did he call a timeout? Then they came back from commercial. Then Brad Stevens drew up a play, and then they threw it all the way down the court. And of course, the ball was turned over, because this not Christian Laettner in 1992. So I don't know what the world he was thinking. Did he think it was the fourth quarter and he just called a timeout? I mean, I don't know what the world was going on, but whatever he on, I might need some of that. You know what I mean? But anyway, once again, this is your boy, B New. I'm saying right on to the real. I'm saying much love to the haters. Y'all already know what to do. Like, share, and subscribe. I'm out.